Okay, here we are at this week in birding and nature photography on Sunlit Earth. If you can hear the audio, shake your head. All right, hey Connie, first time, good to see you. Hey Steve Rushing. Hey Alexandra Hart, I see you made it just in time. Everything's working perfectly. We will talk about that in just a moment. This week's show uh, is going to be very interesting. We have a special guest, one of our best supporters, Alexandra Hart from the UK. We're going to talk about the foreign islands and birds you can see there. And we have a few guests signing in. It's a very exciting day here in the United States, and the news just broke, so you'll probably hear horns beeping in the background and stuff like that. But we don't discuss anything about politics or anything on this page. So everybody think whatever you want. We're going to keep going with birding because we love nature. So today we're going to start the show, if that's all right with you, Alexandra, with a few minutes going over what we've seen locally, and then I'll invite anyone to talk about their birding experiences this week. And I should probably hide this Diet Coke because I know it's not bad. It's not good for me. Alexandra will probably yell at me. She's in the medical field. So what did we see this week? Over at the Clyde Shepherd Nature Preserve, there were plenty of good things to see. And I'm sharing my screen from Clyde Shepherd, and we'll take a look at some of the birds after I get rid of these messages. I'm getting bombarded with constant private messages. How'd that get on there? Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Sunlit Earth. Connie, this program is not really the most professional, smoothest program. We just have a good time and talk about birds. So if you're expecting a super high professional media type broadcast, you're at the wrong place. Foreign islands will be our subject today when Alexandra comes around. Check out this purple finch. This is a really cool bird that comes to our area every year about this time. This is a male purple finch that I saw at the feeders at Clyde Shepherd. And really, I couldn't take a picture of anything without a purple finch in it because they were all over the place. The male has got a beautiful purple breast, and even back, a lot of the back of it is a purplish lavender color. It's really a beautiful bird, taken for granted because there's so many of them when they come through, but then when they're all gone, we miss them. And this is the female purple finch. It looks a lot like a house finch. In fact, so does the male, but once you see the purple finch, there's no mistaking that you're looking at a purple finch. So the female has this heavy white brow above and sort of below the eye, but with the same house finch markings. Beautiful, beautiful bird. Take it for granted like a lot of birds are. But if you're from somewhere else in the world, seeing a purple finch would probably be a lifer for you. You know, like Alexandra seeing a cardinal, she'd probably lose her mind if she saw a cardinal in her yard. But we kick them out of the way because there's so many of them. This is another beautiful, beautiful bird that we've got running around our little neck of the woods right now. This is a blue-headed vireo. Blue-headed vireo. You know, that's a cool name for a cool bird. And it looks a little bit like a kinglet, but it's got this heavy, heavy eyebrow. Eye circle, I guess they call it, Irene. And they were all over the place at Clyde Shepherd yesterday also. And I even went over to Decatur Cemetery and to Murphy Candler Park and saw the same birds over there. So there's a ton of these blue-headed vireos running around, and these are all wintertime birds. You don't see them any other time, at least in our area. And I always want to talk about Sarah Draper. She is one of our photographers, and look at that beautiful photo of a paper wasp on a flower. Yeah, it's just incredible work by our Sunlit Earth members. And I know all of you guys are Sunlit Earth members. Blue heron, and looks like Buddy saw a velociraptor also at Murphy Candler. I'm not sure about that. Okay, more purple finch photos. This blue jay over at Decatur Cemetery was very mad at me, and he yelled at me for quite some time, and there was a bunch of them over there. You know, they do this weird flocking behavior this time of year, just like the robins and the red-winged blackbirds. They all get together, and the males all try to talk about who's the baddest. And when I walked into their area, this one really gave me an earful of, get out of here. And there was probably 20 of them over there at Decatur Cemetery. And this is about the same time this guy's 70-pound Rottweiler came running through the cemetery, off leash, of course. peeing on people's graves and stuff. And I had a few words with the guy, but that's another subject we'll talk about some other time. You know, it's just really disrespectful to have your dog off leash running through a cemetery, but you know, that's the way it is here. Let's see what other really cool birds. You know, I saw a ruddy duck yesterday, which is something that we hardly ever see here. There you go, Alexandra. There's a close up of a northern cardinal for you. And like I said, I could probably hang my camera out the window and see 3 of them right now. Beautiful bird, northern cardinal. So let me see if we can find this ruddy duck before we move on. My internet is running really slow. In fact, Alexandra had a heck of a time even logging on because internet traffic is extremely heavy right now with the news in the US. So we saw this beautiful great blue heron flying by Murphy Camera Park yesterday. And I think they have these in England as well. They have them on every continent except Antarctica. And one of the pictures was this heron flying about 10 feet in front of 2 guys that were sitting on the bank. They were both looking at their cell phones, you know, doing cell phone stuff. And this blue heron flew like 6 feet in front of them. And they didn't even notice. I was like, wow, these guys really need to look up more. So let's see if we can find the ruddy duck. Boy, Facebook is working slow right now. And I've got 10 gigabit per second internet, and that's how slow things are. The ruby crowned kinglet is back. You guys have all seen ruby crowned kinglets, except I don't think Alexandra has these in the UK. These little suckers are really, really hard to get a picture of. And I owe all of these photos to my new use of Topaz Denoise, which is an add-on to Photoshop that I got schooled on one of our previous programs by Buddy Heron. So ruby crowned kinglet. And you only see the ruby crown when they're pissed off at you, when they're yelling at you. So if you see a picture that's got the ruby crown all spread out and a great shot of it, it's probably because they were using the bird call to get them to come down. And look at this awesome shot here, man. This came from Lake Apopka, which is down in Orlando, Florida, one of the places I was going to take you to go birding, Alexandra Hart. This is a great blue heron eating an alligator. That's right. Swallowing whole a live alligator that looks to be maybe 6 weeks old. That's about the size of them. The great blue heron will eat anything it can get in its mouth. And I'm always really glad that these birds don't grow to 15 feet tall because they would eat us. That was from Lake Apopka, which until they cut off photography there, you know, made it really difficult. That was probably the best birding place on the East Coast. Let's see if we can find that ruddy duck. Bluebirds, chickadees, red-headed woodpeckers. These are all photos I took at the cemetery yesterday. All right, here we go. This is a ruddy duck, which is not an uncommon bird in North America, but it's uncommon for us. It only passes through in the wintertime. And this duck was at Murphy Camera Park. There was only one of them, and he was out there with a group of mallards. You know, I don't know what's up with him, but he's probably lost or something. But this duck dives into the water and swims around under the water and grabs fish and brings them back up and eats them. So I watched him for about an hour, trying to see if he was going to bring up a fish or something, but he never did. But I did get this really nice photo of a ruddy duck, and they were doing the Atlanta Audubon live bird walk. There's Rebecca Seeland coming in. Very good. They were doing the Atlanta Audubon live bird walk while I was at Murphy Camera yesterday. And I do that for them sometimes. Hey, Dwayne and Rebecca. And anyway, Adam Betchel has the scope out and he's looking at birds and he's, you know, talking about the birds live on the Georgia Audubon page. And so I got behind a tree and I said, Adam, and he put his scope over there and got me on the scope and I was flapping my wings and I was doing my brown thrasher dance. So I was one of the birds on the Atlanta Audubon live broadcast yesterday. So that's pretty much what I've seen this week. And I've been doing some honey-do lists around the house. So I haven't been birding as much as I'd like to. And we also had several large trees down at the nature preserve, Clyde Shepherd Nature Preserve. So it's been a week of chainsaw therapy for me. Lots of cutting, lots of hauling, lots of bruises. My arm is really hurting right now, and I got a pretty nice scar right here from the chainsaw. But you know, it's got to be done. So those of you going to Clyde Shepherd, I know there's 2 or 3 of you here that may end up at Clyde Shepherd. The tree in the front will be cleared Tuesday by Guild Tree Services. All the other trees are cleared. Everything's good on the path now. I just ordered the new chainsaw blade, and we are good for a little while. The boardwalk is still out of place, and we're going to try to get some volunteers to come do that. So let's do a little roll call. Connie, how's it going over there? Where do you live, and what kind of birds are you seeing? You're muted right now, by the way. There you go.
I live in the Tucker area, and last week I had 2 fun things in my yard that I don't see very often. I had the blue-headed vireo.
Beautiful bird.
Which I've never seen in my yard before. He was eating cherries from the cherry laurel bush. And then I also had the ruby-crowned kinglets, which I do have occasionally in the yard, but not often enough to not get really excited about them. And then the regular stuff. I was over at Constitution Lakes this morning, and it was raining most of the time we were there. We saw mostly regular sorts of things over there, nothing too unusual.
Right. Now, Connie, 2 things. Were you at Constitution Lakes when they had the black-crowned night heron juveniles?
I was not there then.
Oh, you weren't? Okay, because there was one that had a foot that had been amputated off somehow by getting caught on the boardwalk, or something happened, and it was missing one of its feet, and it was a really sad story. So you didn't get a chance to go over and see those? Yeah.
No, I've seen them before on the South Carolina coast, but I was at Murphy Candler when the bittern was there.
Really? That was last spring, right? Yeah, I was up there as well. That was a sight to see. It was kind of a long hike to get around there to see it. But yeah, it was a beautiful bird, and it was very friendly. It came right out of the grass and showed himself off.
Yep.
Now these kinglets and blue-headed vireos are kind of a bellwether for me that the season has changed, and it won't be long until all the ducks come in and the shorebirds, and that spring is just around the corner. So do you feel the same way about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, the doldrums of summer are passed us by for birding. Then we go through this really cool fall phase of warbler migration. And then the next thing you know, in come these kinglets. You start seeing the barred owls kind of caterwauling, waiting for their girlfriends to show up. And, you know, I kind of mark the seasons by these birds, and there's ruby crowns and the vireos, and even the brown creeper, which is over at Clyde Shepherd right now, and pretty easy to see. It's just a sign to me. It helps me pass the seasons. Don't you think?
Yes.
Very cool. So do you plan on going birding anywhere this week new, or what are your normal haunts?
So Murphy Candler and Clyde Shepherd are my favorite spots, and I didn't go to either one of them last week. I heard things were a little muddy and difficult at Clyde Shepherd.
It's an understatement.
Yeah. But I probably will be at both of those places next week.
Well, good. I hope so, because I don't know if you know, but I'm one of the guys that takes care of the Clyde Shepherd Nature Preserve. And
I do know that. I've been on some of your nature walks before.
Yeah,
well, at least
right.
one of them, and I'm currently in the master birding course.
All right, awesome.
So that class was at Constitution Lakes this morning. That was our weekly field trip.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Have you taken the Georgianne Smaltz?
Yes, that boy.
My mind was frazzled after that for a long time.
Yes, I'm right there with you on that.
I felt like I knew less about bird calls after that course. But very good. And thank you for signing in. I'm really happy to see you on here with us, and hopefully you'll join us in some future meetings, and maybe we can have you on as a guest.
Glad to be here. I don't think I knew about this before, and I'm not even sure why I knew about it today, but it was on my calendar, and so I
Fate has brought you to us, and we are grateful.
It has, I guess.
We record it with our local friends that sign in from all around the world, and then it's put on the Facebook page, and then we get about 1,000 or 1,500 views or so over the next week and all that. Usually have 5 or 6 people on live. So you're welcome to be one of them, and we're glad you're here.
Okay, thank you.
Steve Rushing, how's it going over there, man? Steve Rushing. Okay, Rebecca, what's up on your neck of the woods?
So we have not been getting out a whole lot because we've had some major projects around the house.
Right.
But we did go yesterday to the botanical gardens, which was fun to get out. It was a beautiful day. And then today at our bird feeder, we had a goldfinch, which is always fun and exciting. We don't get a whole lot of those, but we do get them occasionally.
What kind of color do they have?
We've only ever had a couple times kinglets. So I know Connie sees them a lot, but I would be super excited if you would send them my way because I really love those little kinglets.
Me too.
They're really fun to watch.
How was your goldfinch colored? Was it drab or was it still yellow?
No, it was pretty bright. It was pretty bright yellow. Yeah.
Well, I saw a yellow rump warbler at Clyde Shepherd that was really bright spring colors still. I was kind of surprised to see that.
Oh, nice. And the goldfinch was at the suet. It was at the suet, and we've hung one time before some finch food, one of those long skinny feeders for the finches, but nobody came and the food all went bad. So
the thistle.
Yeah, the thistle.
Yeah, I've never had any success with that either. But we'll see.
All right. I thought maybe we just got a cheap one or something, but I don't know. They didn't like it. Nobody came back because we saw them and it's like, let's bring them. So, so I don't know. Just other than that, around the house, we've had bluebirds seem to have come back. They were gone for a while, and lots of activity this morning with all the regular cardinals and titmouse and little nuthatches and woodpeckers. And
so we all live in the same area. We're all kind of seeing the same birds. Steve, is that how it's going over at the Birding in Place headquarters?
I'm here, and the only thing I'll add is it has been a good week for finches. Purple finches and goldfinches have gotten to Decatur, but also the pine siskins. We're in the middle of an election year, and a lot of pine siskins have come in. A lot of kinglets here. The sparrow population has grown back as the song sparrows and white-throateds have come in. So it's been a good week for our winter friends to start showing up.
Right. I saw a pile of pine siskins yesterday. I forgot to mention that. I'm glad you brought it up. And the yellow-bellied sapsucker at Clyde Shepherd. Right. And when I talked to those sparrows, I stopped at our little secret sparrow spot on 3 different occasions yesterday to see if any of those little fox sparrows had shown up. And didn't see them yet.
Still a little early, but northern flickers are back. The yellow sapsuckers are here. The kinglets, I've seen both ruby and golden crown kinglets move through, and orange crown warblers are still. And I've had a Swason's thrush still here, which is really unusual.
Wow, a holdover. Cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to me and you birding together at Clyde Shepherd again when things get back to normal, because I don't get nearly enough Steve rushing time. I'm hoping you got a chance to see the Clyde Shepherd anniversary video, which we released last week. Luckily, we filmed that 3 weeks before, or else we got it finished filming right before the devastation hit the preserve. So it's a good thing. And you can go to the Clyde Shepherd Nature Preserve Facebook page and watch that video. And Steve is in the video and has a very interesting story about the history of the preserve, along with several other people. So that's awesome. So Atlanta is going with the winter arrivals, and I'm looking forward to going and seeing some more of them tomorrow morning. Alexandra, I see you have gotten signed in.
Yeah, finally. Never had a difficulty before, but tonight it just was twirling with connecting, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Well, I would imagine the internet is pretty active right now in the U.S. because of all the political stories. And for those that don't know who Alexandra Hart is, she is a very good friend of mine. She is a solar astronomer in the UK and a longtime avid member of our solar astronomy portion of our nonprofit, as well as one of the moderators and caretakers of our solar chat forum, which is the largest solar astronomy forum in the world on the internet. Alexandra also beat the crap out of me in a photo contest in 2014 with her photo, and I always tell that story. But she's in the United Kingdom, and maybe the hubby will come by and make an appearance. We never know. And I see you have some solar eclipse photos behind you. Is that just to rub in the fact that you beat me in the Astrophotographer of the Year award contest?
No, that's actually our holiday, you know, when we went to Oregon to see the solar eclipse.
Yes.
So we made like a little photo thing of montage of the highlights of the holiday because it was just so fantastic.
Well, Alexandra, I can't tell you how grateful I am, and I'm going to let you have it here in just a few minutes, but I just want to go over again what an awesome person you are and how fortunate I have been to become your friend over the years. And I'm very, very grateful for what you've done for the solar astronomy side and now for the birding side of our nonprofit. And you bring in a lot of people. Everyone loves to listen to you talk because you're so super intelligent and well-spoken, and you have a cool accent. So we're going to talk about the Farne Islands, which I've never heard of until you told me that's what you were going to talk about. And you're going to show us some pictures and talk about your birding on the Farne Islands. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I don't bore you to death.
I doubt that would be the case, because you could talk about anything. You could probably read a refrigerator manual and we would all be enthralled because of your wonderful accent. So, so would you like to, well, what are you seeing in your yard now? I know you have a beautiful garden.
At the moment, not very much actually. A lot of the birds have disappeared. I think that it's probably because it's like autumn time. There's a lot of seeds, you know, about wild seeds. So they seem to have dispersed quite a bit. We've just got a few tits, a few blackbirds, and not a lot else really. I saw a sparrow.
Owls? Are you hearing the owls?
No, we don't generally have that many owls around here. To be honest, in my life, I think I've seen a tawny owl once and a barn owl once. I think we see more little owls, but then they seem to have declined as well over the last 20 years. Yeah. So it just gets quite a struggle.
We're very fortunate here in Atlanta that we live in the middle of a giant forest. We've ruined the center part of Atlanta, obviously, from sprawl. But we're surrounded by these really dense, wonderful Piedmont forest areas and lowland mountain areas. And they are full of barred owls and barn owls and screech owls and great horned owls. So we're very lucky. So that's one more thing I got to add to the Alexandra and hubby list when you get over here, because I could take you anywhere and we can find an owl. It's no problem at all.
Really?
Yeah. I hear him. I live in the middle of the city and I hear him on my patio every night.
Wow.
It's crazy. You know, there's so many of them. So we will make that happen for you. So
bring Alexander over here. We've got a mating pair in a tree just down the street. I got a great shot the other day.
And there's a barred owl, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, I always wonder that because you always seem to have pictures of owls, and yet I would never, ever imagine of seeing them in the daytime.
Yeah, this time of year, the barred owls pair up and they're monogamous. They have the same mates every year, most of them, unless the mate dies. And they come back to the same spot and they hang out in these trees for a few weeks until the other one shows up, and then they do their business. And they're very easy to see in the daytime in the winter here. It's really, in fact, Alexandra, the 2 hikes I gave over the last 3 weeks, on both hikes, I walked to a certain spot in the Clyde Shepherd Nature Preserve, and I said, this is a nice place to see barred owls. We see them all the time here. And I swear to you, I'm not exaggerating. Both times, within 10 seconds, a barred owl flew in and landed on a branch right in front of us and then stayed there for photographs. Both times. It was unbelievable. Of course, I haven't seen him since, but both of those hikes, you know, it's like I called him on cue and he came in, you know. It was uncanny. So, yeah, we'll see some owls. But tell us a little bit about the Farne Islands and take it away if you'd like to. You want to make sure your share screen works and all that?
Yes, because I hope that works. You'll have to let me know if it is.
Okay, and if you happen to get cut off, don't worry, just sign in again. I know the internet is flooded right now between our countries. And anyone that has a question, Alexandra will love it. If anyone has a question, just interrupt and unmute your mic and ask her anything you want, because we're in no hurry here.
Yeah, I pressed the share screen and it's just doing nothing.
So it should have come up with a window that says which screen you want to share.
Yeah, your entire screen, and I press share and nothing happens.
Well, let's try it again.
It seems to have frozen up.
Do you have printed poster boards that you can hold up?
No.
Well, that's okay.
No,
Just try it again. Just try to close it out and try it again. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's not doing very well this tonight, is it? Because usually I have no problem with Zoom at all. I use it for work and everything. But tonight it just, why won't you share? No, it just won't do anything. I knew this would happen. All go wrong on my night. No, I don't know what to do now. I'm stuck.
I know what to do. I'll keep sharing mine, and we'll and see what happens. Where's the hubby? Does he have any special tricks?
I don't know, because he's not used to using Zoom. You definitely got me as a co-host.
I will make you a co-host. I don't have you as a co-host, but I will make you that now. Okay, you are now a co-host.
Let's see if that makes a difference.
I don't know if you can hear all these horns beeping.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? Oh.
Just keep trying. So the whole city is full of people driving around beeping their horns.
Oh, I think it might be. Is it working now?
Yes.
Oh, you can see. Oh,
I can see me.
Great. That's fantastic.
Now, are these all still images, Alexandra?
Yeah, they will be. Yeah,
okay,
let's
good.
hope so.
So take it away then and take your time, and everything is great. I will mute myself and turn off my video.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
Right, so I don't know whether you can see my pointer, but I live probably about there.
We can see your pointer. We can.
Yeah, you can. Right, okay. And it's about a 4-hour drive up north, and then you sort of like cut across England, and then the Farne Islands are here on this edge. If I get a little bit of time, I'd like to show you Bass Rock as well, which is also a fantastic seabird colony there. So the Farne Islands, you access the Farne Islands from this little town called Sea Houses, and they take you by boat, and you can, what they do is, so that there's the least amount of disturbance to the birds, is that they do boat trips in the morning to one of the islands, and then in the afternoon they do boat trips to the other island. So it just gives the birds a break. But everyone can actually walk through the seabird colony. So I'll start off with the first one we went to in the morning was this one here, which is Staple Island. And then in the afternoon, we went to Inner Farne here. So I'll start off with some photographs of these two islands first. Let's see, hopefully you can see them. It'll open up. Okay, so this is the little boats that they take you out.
Yeah, everything's working great, Alexandra. So it's all going right.
Oh, good. You can see the pictures clearly, I hope.
Yes, ma'am. Looks great.
Great. So it's only little boats that they take you out, and you can probably see the Farne Islands in the distance. They're about 15 to 20 islands, and they're about 2 to 3 miles off the shore. Right. And on the way, what you can see is, lots of grey seals. It's a big grey seal colony as well. There's, I don't know how many, I think there's about 6,000 grey seals. And at this time of the year, if you actually went to the Farne Islands, all of the grey seals are having their pups. So it'd be full of little white baby seals everywhere. So they're really quite cute. But when you go during the midsummer, all of the seabirds there. So you get to land on the island, and you can then get to walk through all of the nesting seabirds. And it's something that I've always wanted to do all through my life, and it was amazing to get there. So you've got to remember that I don't have a camera like you guys have, like these giant bird watching cameras. I've only got like a little camera that you would normally take out, on your holiday snaps. So a bird has to be within 6 feet of me to be able to get a decent image. So to be able to get a good shot, you know, of like these puffins, it means that I'm stood right next to them. So I don't know whether you've seen puffins before. They're quite common, you know, like around the UK coast, and they tend to nest in little rabbit burrows. And I think probably most people in Britain could recognise a puffin. I think they're probably, you know, like the British people's favourite little bird because they're so cheeky and like look like little clowns. But with this beak that they've got, I've got a picture of them with, you know, they line up all their fish along their beak so that they can collect as many fish as they can in one go, because when they come back to the nest, they are just completely mobbed by, in the far north, like skuas and gulls who try to rob them, and they just let go of all of their fish, and then their babies don't have anything. So they want to come to see their babies in a sort of like an infrequent amount of times. So they want to take as many fish as they can in one go. But this bill actually drops off in the winter. So it's only this blue and yellow part that gets left because it's a bit heavy and they don't need it, you know, during the winter. One of the best birds that I really enjoy seeing are the shags. I think there's about 965 pairs, and you can just walk between, they're like the little babies and the little families, you know, and sit right next to them, and they just don't mind. They're absolutely fabulous birds. And again, it's just millions of puffins, and more seabirds. What you do is you just walk through and you can just see all of the birds nesting, and it's great. And that's another shag. The birds in the background here are kittiwakes. They are true seabirds in the fact that they never come on land apart from to breed, so they stay out at sea. Up here is guillemot. They are true seabirds.
It's a very interesting show, Natalie.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a reverb of my voice coming back through. Is that? Also, I've got, can you see this? Rob Lane is in the waiting room.
Yes, I let him in.
Oh, right, okay. Just need to get rid of that.
He's from the UK also.
Oh, right, okay. So I don't know whether I can actually zoom in and you can see these birds a little bit better.
Did you say those blackbirds were called shags?
Yeah, shags.
Okay.
And they've got beautiful coloration. Absolutely wonderful if you see them in the sunshine. The kittiwakes, you know, beautiful, pretty gulls, but they make an awful lot of noise. And then we've got some guillemots up here in the top. And this one's got like a little chick, I think. Let's keep going. So it's more shags with more babies. Really cute. I've got some closer pictures of shags actually, because they've got the most beautiful emerald green eyes. Really, I've also got beautiful feathers. It's a pity that it wasn't sunny on that day, because they've got beautiful green and purple, really beautiful. I guess they're pretty similar to your cormorant, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at on the internet to see if it's the same bird or not.
No, it won't be.
It's a species of cormorant, according to the internet.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, there you go. There's his beautiful green hands.
Yeah, look at that cheek, or the crop is really nicely colored, isn't it? Wow, look at that.
They're absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
Just
Now, do they dive for birds like ours do?
Yeah, they're just, you know, fishers. But they never, like cormorants come inland. A shag would never come inland. They purely stay in the sea, and only come to land to breed, and they only come on these remote cliffs
Great.
So they nice pictures of them. That's more of the environment that's there. So there's just absolutely birds everywhere. It's just amazing place. And there's I think that is a lesser black-backed gull. He's got yellow legs, so you can tell the difference. A greater black-backed gull will have pink legs.
What are these structures that we're seeing? Are these old Roman forts, or what's going on with all that?
They are lighthouses, bird observatories, and also like little churches, because the Farne Islands were actually holy islands, so they had monasteries on them, so monks used to live there. And when we go to the inner Farne, I'll tell you about St. Cuthbert.
Very good.
So yeah, just more puffins everywhere, really close. Oh yeah, and this shag was feeding his baby. So they put their head right down their throat to feed. So it doesn't look very pleasant, but that's how they feed their babies. More little puffins doing little fly dances, very cute. Oh right, okay, so now we're moving on to Inner Farne. So this is St. Cuthbert's Chapel. It was built in I think it was in the 14th century, so it's probably about 700 years old. But prior to that, it would have been like the little monk houses where St. Cuthbert lived. And actually St. Cuthbert, he was sort of like living around the time of 651. And he actually introduced special laws onto the Farne Islands in 676 to protect the eider ducks and the other nesting seabirds. And they think that it's the earliest bird protection laws in the world. So he was a good man. But sort of like in modern day times now, it's owned by the National Trust.
And Rosemary's just checked in with us, and I understand she grew up in Scotland, so maybe she has some things she can comment on at some point too.
Oh, right, okay. So it's more grey seals, very cute. I always like to see a seal because they're so sort of like inquisitive, and they like to come and see who you are. They like to know what humans are doing, so they're quite cute. A lighthouse. But when you actually land on the Inner Farne, that's where the breeding colony of Arctic terns are. And you have to walk through all of their nests. And they recommend that you must wear a hat because their beaks are extremely sharp and they will attack you. So you to get to the boat and get onto the, to and from the boat, you've got to run the gauntlet of the islands. So I think that this one probably was on its way to me. So this is just everybody, but they are so beautiful because they're so close. And I think that they are possibly one of the most beautiful birds in the world, I think. Extremely beautiful. And so their wings and their tail are just fabulous to see. See, there's a chap here with a big birding lens, but honestly, you don't need them because they're too close. I think that he was struggling. So they just land by the path next to you. And very sweet, a nice Arctic tern. So they're always shouting at you because then her nest will probably be just down on the floor by that's probably her two little chicks.
Oh.
So you can see the rope of the like the gangway of where you walk, yeah. So that they do just nest right next to the footpath, so you get a really good view. But what surprised me is that actually out of all of the breeding terns, so many are at different stages. Some are eggs, some are little babies, some are quite fully grown. then there's the information centre for the National Trust. Like I say, they just nest everywhere. So they're nesting all around St Cuthbert's Chapel. More little baby chicks. They are absolutely delightful. And because they're right by your feet, it means that you can get such an up-close relationship with them. You can sit, by them and watch them going about their daily business. And they're just wonderful birds.
So they're protected there as well, so they have no worries about humans hurting them, right?
No, and I think that's probably why they like to nest by the footpath, and also around St Cuthbert's Chapel, because where there are humans, they're less likely to get bombarded by gulls, which would predate, their babies. Whereas where the humans are, the gulls are not, because they're too shy. So they know that they have a better breeding success if they actually nest close to us, which is a bit strange, but that's how they like it. So they don't seem to mind the humans. But this little bird is quite advanced compared to, like the other babies that we saw. And one little nice fact is that they radio tagged one of the little Arctic terns on the Farne Islands, and then tracked where it went when it first fledged. And it flew just straight 14,000 miles and was born in Australia. So this little tiny bird that's only been on this planet for like 3 months can fly 14,000 miles non-stop. Isn't that amazing?
Wow, that's unbelievable.
They are tremendous birds. And then obviously this is St Cuthbert's Chapel, and some nice sunshine coming through the stem. More terns, more little babies. And I think these two little guys are going to get fed in a minute. You can see that the parent is coming in with a sand eel.
Alexandra, you take this as normal to see something that was, done in 600 AD or 400 AD or something. There's nothing in this country that any of us have ever seen that was anything older than, 1700, basically 1600. So it's amazing to see this scenery and these buildings.
Yeah, it really is an amazing place. See, there's even an Arctic tern on the font. So with his sand eel, waiting for a little baby. And inside the visitor centre, they've got all sorts of bits and bobs that they found on the island, so that you can actually pick up and feel what a skull feels of all the different animals and birds, of the islands. So these two guys have got sand eels, which is the main. If I zoom in a bit, these little fish here are everything with the seabirds around here. Virtually the puffins, the Arctic terns, the sandwich terns, the guillemots, the shags, and everything like that will all be feeding off the sand eels. Now, there's been, a bit of a problem with climate change in this country, where the sand eel populations have been moving further north, which means that these traditional breeding sites all around Scotland and around these areas means that it's too far to fly to get to the sand eels, and a lot of the babies starve to death. So they really are at the mercy of this sand eel population. And as climate change gets worse, I think that it's going to get tough for them. So both of them have got their sand eels ready for their little babies. See, this Arctic tern's only got eggs, and yet you saw, some quite well-on babies. I don't know what their timing is, or whether they stagger their breeding. I've no idea. But the puffins live in the little rabbit holes. So if there weren't rabbits on the island, they would have to either dig their own holes, or they wouldn't be so prolific in breeding. So there's some, I think there, because I don't have that many pictures of guillemots actually, because they tended to be a bit too far away for my camera. But these are beautiful birds. But when you go further north in Scotland, you tend to get a lot of the Arctic version of the guillemot, where they like have they're called bridled guillemots, and they have like a little white eye and then a white eye stripe to define them. But pretty much the same species, but just sort of like more of an Arctic variant. This one is the sandwich terns. I couldn't get very close to these. So they tended to stay, whereas the Arctic terns like to breed right by the footpath and right by St. Cuthbert's Chapel, these sandwich terns like to stay in their own little colony quite distance away from the path. So my camera isn't good enough to get that. But the difference with these birds, they're a lot larger. They've got a black bill and black feet. So they're quite different to the Arctic tern, which has a red bill and a red feet.
Mm-hmm. And what are the ones at the bottom of that image there with the
gray? I've got a better picture further on. These are black-headed gull, and I think these are their black-headed gull babies. So they all tend to, nest together for safety, really. More of the cliffs. This just gives you a scale of how many birds there are, because each one of these black dots is all a bird.
Wow.
Oh, there's a better picture of black-headed gull for you.
Wow.
All the puffins lined up on the poolings, they're just everywhere. Then you had to sort of like run the gauntlet again to get away from the Arctic terns and get bombed. That's a kittiwake baby. I can zoom in again. So they have black feet and a pure yellow bill. Whereas like a herring gull, you would see like a red dot. They don't have this, but they have a nice red eye as well. A very, very beautiful bird. I think they're probably one of the prettiest gulls. We've got a razorbill. I think I've got another picture of a razorbill. Oh no, maybe that's the only one. A little baby kittiwake. They're very, very cute, perched on the edge of the cliff. So this is a razorbill. With its baby. Okay, so they're slightly different to the guillemot. So they've got a very thick bill, and also their coloration is very black, whereas the guillemot is brown and has a very slender bill. So that's the difference between these. But what a cute little chick he is.
Mm. Yeah, that is a beautiful bird.
And what they do is they all have their own little place on the cliff. The puffins will nest at the top. You'll get the guillemots and the shags next. Then you'll get the razorbills a bit lower down with the kittiwakes. And then right at the bottom, I think you do get cormorants. I think they're at the bottom of the pile. I think you probably see some cormorants might be out here right at the bottom. So they all have a special place on the cliff. That's a puffin with all his fish. It's like how many fish can you fit? Sometimes I think they can get about 20 fish stuck in their bill. But they've got to be, when you actually see them coming in, they are fast. And they just fly in like a little arrow and just go straight to their burrow as fast as they can, because otherwise they'll just get mobbed. And there's just loads of gulls just sat about. And again, this is like an Arctic tern's nest. So it's amazing. It's just a little bit of dried grass with an egg on it. And it's like, you put a lot of effort into that nest, didn't you? Absolutely fantastic. And there's probably the owner. More pictures. She probably wants to go and sit on her nest again, I expect. And I think that this might probably be the end of this one. Yep, I think. Right, so if there's quickly some time, I'll go on to Bass Rock.
You have nothing but time, Alexandra. These are wonderful photos. I'm sure everybody wants to see as many as you'd like to share.
So we went there all excited because Bass Rock is, one of the largest gannet breeding areas in the world. I think it holds 59% of the world's population breeding there. And again, you can walk through, the gannet breeding colony, so you can get within 1 to 2 feet of them and have a really up close personal experience. We got to the little port here. It looked a lovely day, really calm, and there was no sailings today because the weather's too bad. And it's like, I was so disappointed. So it's still on my bucket list. So all we had was like these tentative views of the Bass Rock. And it's like, how can we get as close as we can without going on a boat? So what we did, I don't know whether this is the one. What we did is instead we went to this castle here, Tantallon Castle, because this is about the closest point that you can get to these birds. And I need to find my photograph again, that's it. So we trotted to Tantallon Castle to see what we could see, because otherwise I'd have been very disappointed. So we were actually fairly close at this point. You can see from, the cliff. So what you can see here is every one of these little white spots all over here is one breeding pair of gannets. And also in the sky, I don't know whether I can zoom in a little bit. You can see the footpath goes up all through the breeding. It would have been amazing, but honestly, from Tantallon Castle, you could smell the Bass Rock. And it is the most I can't imagine what it actually smells like when you're actually in the colony. But I did read up, and they were saying that it gives off like 152 tons of ammonia per year from their bird poo, which is pretty incredible. But there are just literally thousands and thousands. It's like a gannet city, and they're just everywhere. So it's quite an incredible sight. It's quite awe-inspiring, actually, and I would have loved to have actually gone on the island, but instead I had to settle for them in the waters nearby. So we call them gannets, and I think they're a member of like the booby. Probably you're more used to seeing boobies around your place, but we call them gannets. And I think that they've changed their names to like the northern gannet, I think.
Yeah, we have the occasional northern gannet here on the shore, and they're just brown. And I bet that island smells great to the other gannets, though.
Oh my goodness! Honestly, you're lucky you don't have smelly vision, because it was really, really bad. But what the birds do when they're nesting is, you can see here that they come near shore to pick up pieces of like floating seaweed to build their nests with. So this is why we could actually see them quite closely here. Now, obviously, each one of those seabird nests has to be built, and they build it out of poo and seaweed. Now, they don't come to land to pick the seaweed. They have to get pieces that are floating on the top of the water. So you can see this one has sort of like landed a bit, got its bit of seaweed, and then it will be going back to the Bass Rock. Now, the problem happening now is, because there's so much plastic and litter in the ocean, is what they're doing is they're not only picking up seaweed, but they're also picking up plastic as well. And the stats, I think that they found 100% of the nests now contain plastic as part of their nest, whereas 20 years ago hardly any of them had plastic in. And the problem is so bad now that, because the babies get stuck in the plastic, at the end of the breeding season, what they have to do with volunteers is go round and free all the little baby gannets that are tethered to the nest. buy all our rubbish. So they go around and cut them free. Otherwise, they would just starve to death. And that's purely, you know, a problem in the last 20 years that we've caused. And it's a real pity, really. So we could just see them all flying about, picking up seaweed, but they're an absolutely beautiful bird. They're enormous in size. I think that's probably it. Just millions of pictures of gannets because I love them.
I don't know if we see that gannet here or not, but you know, the brown booby we had recently looked a lot like that, except it was brown and colorless. And the gannets I've seen on the ocean here in Florida were all brown as well. But what a beautiful bird. I wonder if the people freeing the babies get attacked by the parents while they're doing it.
There's a greater black-backed gull. So you can see they have like a red spot here and a very black back. And they are one of the curses of the little baby seabirds because they'll swallow baby kittiwakes and guillemots whole and puffins if they could get the hold of them. So they fly around hunting for little babies. But obviously we were watching the BBC Autumn Watch the last couple of weeks, and they actually had a little sort of like piece on gannets last night, and actually gave quite a lot of gannet facts, which were quite interesting. That I thought I'd, you know, share with you. So it's 2 months to raise their chick, and they can actually fly up to 200 miles to catch fish. And they are actually doing very well because they're not dependent on the sand eels. So they go in search of bigger fish, and like I say, can range up to 200 miles. And they found that one gannet from Bass Rock flew all the way to Denmark just to go to fish and then bring the fish back to its baby. And what they do is they dive into the water, a bit like an osprey does, but they go in head first. And they have like special airbags in their neck that inflate when they hit the water to protect their head, which I thought was fascinating. And of course, you know, scientists got a dead gannet and did tests on it to see how fast they could actually go into the water without damaging their neck. And they found that if they could go into the water at about 178 miles an hour before damaging their neck. Whereas with humans, you would get head damage and neck damage at about 50 miles an hour. But they tend to roughly fly into the water about 50 to 60 miles an hour. So they're well within their tolerating range of when they would give themselves head damage. But I thought that was quite fascinating, what an amazing bird they are. So incredible little thing to have airbags in your head.
Yes, yes, I'd like to have some airbags in my head also.
Yeah, so that's just a picture of, you know, Tantallon Castle with Bass Rock, with 60% of the world's population of northern gannets on it, which is amazing, really. Oh yeah, and there was some little fulmars nesting on the side. I think this is about the only picture I've got of fulmars. But fulmars tend to nest sort of like in the ruins of castles, and also, you know, like on the edges of cliffs. And I don't know whether you can see that they're sort of like a member of like the albatross and petrel family. They have like these little tube noses, a bit like an albatross. I don't know whether you can sort of like quite see. But they're a beautiful little bird that are very, very common around, you know, like our cliffs. But if you get too close to them, out of that tube nose, they'll spray you with like this horrible fishy oil, which you don't want to get too close to them. So that's why they know that you're not going to get anywhere near close to them. And I think that might be it, actually. So I've probably gone on long enough. I did have some more photographs of Holy Island, but I don't know whether I'll bore you with that.
Well, that's totally up to you if you feel like talking about
birds in it. Pardon?
That's completely up to you, Alexandra.
Well, it's quick. It's not birds. But it's a phenomenon. It's an astronomical phenomenon because it's, you know, tides and how we have tides. So this is the Farne Islands are just off the end here, and this is the holy island of Lindisfarne. So it's part of, you know, like the Farne Islands, but it's, you know, actually populated with humans now. There's a town there and everything, but it's cut off every day during the tide. So for about 6 hours every day, the island is cut off. And you suddenly get to realize what sort of like an impact the moon has on us. Because usually the tide, it comes in ever so slowly and you don't really notice it. But because this area is so flat, you can actually see the tide coming in at walking pace. And it slowly comes in, you know, across and then gets to this causeway where it's cut off. And you have to be extremely careful. Now, everybody comes to watch the coming of the tide because it's just so fascinating. So we get, you know, ice cream vans turn up and everything because obviously we all turn up to come and see it. And then, you know, within about 10 minutes, you start to see the water and it starts to come. And it starts to fill up very, very quickly. But like what they say 45 minutes before the tide comes to the causeway, you must get off it. Because I don't know, if you go onto YouTube and put Holy Island, causeway, you know, like cars, you'll find loads of people who have been caught out. Now the tide comes in extremely quickly. And I do mean quickly, within 10 minutes. You know when to go is when the ice cream van starts to come. As soon as it hits the causeway, it comes over extremely fast. And because the causeway is not flat, it means that you can get areas like this where you just get cut off within 5 minutes. And it is fast. You can see it bubbling and coming up. And it's amazing how, you know, the moon can pull water, huge bodies of water very, very quickly across. So within 5 minutes of touching the causeway, it was gushing across here. And if you took a car into this particular spot, it would wash it away.
How deep does it get?
Coming across. So if you were here, there is sort of like a little refuge. If you do get caught there, you can sit in that box for 6 hours because they won't come and rescue you because you've been warned. So very, very quickly the road is covered, and it's an astronomical phenomenon to see. So I thought I'd just show that quickly. And that's just the road disappearing. And obviously you've got to be careful because the tide actually comes in back on yourself. You turn around and suddenly see that the tide is actually there behind you, and it's like, better go. So this was all within 15 minutes. The causeway was completely covered, and it's like full of nasty wash. I'll end there, and that's about it. So it's a fascinating area, the whole area, you know, of the Farne Islands being, you know, like where all the colony of birds are, Holy Island, where you can come and see like the great astronomical things of the tides coming in, and then obviously Bass Rock just a little bit north from there. So I'll stop sharing and I'll stop boring you to death with my holiday trip.
What a fascinating trip that was. That's way more than I was expecting. It's just like, you know, Raphael and his friends last week. It was just, you know, I was just blown away at how wonderful the presentation was, and this is another one just like that. Yeah, and you are so humble, and you have been hiding how knowledgeable you are about bird species from me. So I'm going to expect a lot more now.
Yeah, the problem is I don't have a big fancy, you know, camera like you do. So the birds have
more of that English humility there because your photos were fantastic. Is that some kind of point and shoot camera? You're using a little Canon DSLR, aren't you?
No. It's a Sony Nex, which I bought about 12 years ago, I think. So I've had it for years.
And you recently bought a new lens, right, for nighttime Milky Way shots?
Yes, I bought a second-hand Canon to take for the solar eclipse. So that picture behind of the solar eclipse was taken with it. But obviously I used it, for the solar eclipse, and it was like, I'd like to use it for, some nighttime shots, because it's got the filter taken out, so it's, shows up a lot of the red.
It's been modified for astronomy.
Yeah, you get lots of colours of the stars and everything. But if you take pictures of birds, they tend to be very red, and it's not quite so great.
Huh.
So
if you can filter that out in Photoshop by changing the color temperature. I don't know.
Yeah, I tried that, but they still come out very green and red. Tried to change it, and it just doesn't seem to work. Because otherwise, I could put a telescope and I could take pictures of birds, but it just doesn't seem to work.
Well, it'd be great for Milky Way nighttime shots being modified for astronomy. They call that here. That should give you the opportunity to shoot. If you have the little guider that you can put it on, you should be able to get one of those fantastic Orion constellation shots, with Bernard's Loop and all the nebulosity around the entire constellation of Orion. And that's, I also bought a very similar lens recently, the Canon 14 millimeter, for that purpose, to do Milky Way shots. And I bought it secondhand also. And to try to get maybe some of the Orion nebulosity, because I've always wanted to get that photo. But that's astronomy nerd stuff. We're not on an astronomy nerd meeting, although we will have one probably pretty soon.
Yeah.
So are the Farne Islands a popular tourist area, or is it still kind of unknown, or how would you say the crowds are?
I think it's very, very popular. I think, in the sort of like, even from like a young child, I've always wanted to go to the Farne Islands. It's like the holy grail of, bird watching, because you can really sit with the birds, and nowhere else can you do that. If you go to a normal bird reserve, you sit in the hide, you're usually generally a long way away from the bird unless it actually comes right up to you. Here, you can actually walk within the breeding birds. So you can sit down next to a shag and watch it with its baby. You can watch it feed, and you can have sort of like a bit of a personal relationship with it, and you don't disturb them. They're just not bothered. And it's a really beautiful experience. I would do it again, time and time again. And I'm so glad that I had that experience.
I'll put that on my list for when I come see you again.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is certainly, one of the most incredible, experiences that you can have, so long as you don't mind the smell.
No, that's fine with me. It'll overcome my smell.
Yeah, you just go around like that.
Rob Lane, are you with us? And are you listening?
I am. I'm listening.
Hey, Rob, have you been to the Farne Islands?
No, I was due to go this week.
Oh no.
Yep, there and then up to Scotland for a couple of days in a hide, and that's all cancelled because we're on lockdown.
Right. Now you're still in the States then.
So back in the UK, but yeah, I was hoping to head up there, so that was a bit frustrating. So I haven't been over to you, and I haven't been birding for a bit.
Alexandra, I met Rob at our local nature preserve birding one morning, and we had conversations, and I mentioned the UK connection with my nonprofit, and he's an excellent photographer. So it's just great that this hobby unites so many people around the world. It kind of drops some of the walls that people have developed these days. When you tell them you're interested in birding, then all of a sudden everybody wants to be friendly and talk to you. So it's been wonderful, and I can't wait for Rob to come back through Atlanta and go birding with me at Clyde Nature Preserve. Is our friend from Scotland still in the group, or is she?
I think she left. I was there. That's part of why I had this on my calendar, it turns out. That, and I had read a recent book, and I can't remember the name of it, about the Hebrides Islands, where for hundreds of years they go out once a year and harvest all these seabirds. And do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
I do. Yes.
And that was
it's horrible, but yes, I think that they still do it.
Yeah.
Even so, it's mainly like the gannets. They'll take, like I say, these birds, they mate for life. They have one baby per year, and they invest 3 months of their life into this little baby, and then we come along and we eat it. And it's like, why? The chicken.
Sorry about the noise.
Yeah, but they've been doing it for thousands of years, and so like the British government say, yes, you are allowed to harvest a certain number of them per year, but honestly, just because you've done it for 1,000 years doesn't make it right. I don't know. That's contentious. So I just think it's awful. I think in the olden days, yes, you needed to eat them to survive. Whereas these days, you don't need to eat them to survive. You can eat something else. So, yeah.
They still do fox hunts over there too, I understand.
That is supposed to be banned. Because, yes, that is the most embarrassing and hideous and horrendous, cruel sport in the world. And as a civilized society, we shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Well, let me tell you, Alexandra, you don't hold a candle to the embarrassing shit we do in the United States, just to let you know. So don't feel bad.
So I did get a text from Rosemary that said that this was actually close to where she lived when she grew up, and that her brother had been to Holy Island on a school field trip before. So she enjoyed your presentation. She was really excited.
It was wonderful. Rebecca, are you Scottish by descent by any chance?
On my mother's side of the family, McQuilkin, part of the McQuilkin family say they're Irish and the other part say they're Scottish. So I don't know what that means.
Well, you could.
Then I did the whole ancestry.com or we did 23andMe, and they just lumped us all into UK. So I thought that was fine. I was like, I'm gonna solve this and tell my family, and they didn't give me any help there. So I don't know. So I'm Swedish, English, and Irish/Scottish. But this was a fantastic presentation, Alexandra.
Yeah,
and
I really enjoyed it.
Oh my God, now Fern Island is big on my list of places to go.
Yeah, me too.
And I had no idea, I didn't know that. I didn't know much about puffins. I've never seen one in the wild, but that's fascinating that they drop off part of their beak. I didn't know that. And God, I really want to go there now after seeing your presentation. Thank you.
You definitely have to go.
Yeah. No, I'm obviously.
And I think you probably said this, but what time of the year did you go?
It's usually around, you want to go between about April to June time. I think we went in June, so that were, quite advanced, because you want to see the baby. So I would say the best time is June.
Absolutely.
And usually the weather is best. Yeah. But by the end of July, they've all gone. So July, you don't want to go because you might just be disappointed. But June is probably the best, I would say.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, that is going to be a June trip for the future.
Yeah, let's get a bus together and make Alexandra guide us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Steve,
I've got to drop. So thank you so much for taking us birding this afternoon. It was.
Thank you.
And don't worry about it boring. That was
awesome, is what that was. Bye, Steve. And Connie, you're clearly of Korean descent, right?
Yep, that's me.
Yeah, me too. And, no, I'm mostly Norway, English Viking. My wife says I look like a Viking because I'm just an enormous guy. I look like a fat Viking, so I'm okay with that. But and I met Rob Lane, and he's Japanese, I think. I'm not sure what he is. But anyway, that was an absolutely fabulous presentation. I'm going to watch it again as soon as we get done with the recording, and you know, we broadcast it live on Facebook, and we had several viewers during that. And I'm sorry about the horns being so loud in the background, but everyone here was celebrating. So, Alexandra, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. We're all grateful, and this will be saved as a high-def recording and uploaded to our Sunlit Earth Facebook page in about an hour or so. And we can watch it again. I'm going to watch it again because it was very interesting. I would love to see those puppies. That's something really special to us Americans. We don't get a lot of that. So thank you. And I'm not sure who the guest next week is. I'm thinking that it may be Catherine Dudette from the Chattahoochee Nature Center, who is in charge of wildlife rehab. And she is a remarkable woman as well, a scientist, and she was educated in Germany and now controls wild animal rehab. So she takes in the injured animals and either helps cure them, or sometimes they have to euthanize them or whatever. And she's also the one who gave me my training in animal rescue. So we're hoping to have Catherine on next week, this week in birding and nature photography. And hopefully all of you will come join us again and sit in for a little while and give your comments. So unless anyone else has some statements they'd like to make.
So do you do this every week at the same time?
I do. We are trying out different times. At first I did it Friday at 10 a.m. And then I realized that not everyone was retired like me and couldn't get on at Friday at 10 a.m. So we changed it to Saturday at 2 p.m. because I thought that might be a time where people aren't out birding and have come in for the afternoon, but before they're having dinner with their families. So we're going to do Saturdays at 2 p.m. for a while. And I hope that you can come join us again, Connie.
Thank you. I'd like to.
Yes, ma'am. And so for everyone watching the recording, thank you so much for watching this week in Birding and Nature Photography from the Sunlit Earth nonprofit, a subsidiary of the Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Project. We invite you to join our Facebook group, Sunlit Earth, and maybe get interested in astronomy over at the Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Project. We are a registered nonprofit in the U.S. and the state of Georgia. And we will see you next week on This Week in Birding and Nature Photography.